Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Pure Property Podcast. So, this episode is going to be talking about how urban regeneration can skyrocket your property investment. Now, at Track Capital, we talk a lot about regeneration in being one of the property investment fundamentals we look for when we're highlighting specific developments or locations as a whole. And yeah, it's not always fully appreciated or understood how important that is to be looking for in certain aspects of the investments that we're highlighting and the developments. So yeah, today's episode will be going over that to show how it can obviously benefit the locations. Obviously, we see a lot of that on a daily basis, don't we, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Toby, I think that is something that we always do look into, as it can massively affect and be a huge benefit in terms of, especially for capital growth and rental demand. So yeah, I think it would be good to dive into maybe some of the areas that are currently have got those regenerations and where they're at.
Speaking of effects on the property market, I suppose it'd be worth mentioning at the time of recording this episode, late yesterday, they announced a snap election. Well, Rishi Sunak announced a snap election. I think it's in about 6 weeks' time. So we're going to a general election, which in terms of the property market, won't really have an effect. What you tend to find is the property market doesn't really do much, kind of stand still. So it's quite a good thing where it's only going to be in about 6 weeks. So while people are waiting to see what happens, but usually as soon as it's done and dusted, things get back to normal. So we don't ever see any fallout from that sort of being announced. And usually new governments coming in, they'll have, obviously if government the current government, Conservatives stay in power, they'll be having a real focus on housing as they always do. It's always at the forefront of a lot of their policy, and they'll be the same with Labour. But it will be interesting to see the different policies that they'll be pushing, highlighting that they're going to be introducing if they want to stay in power, or if Labour were to get in, or any of the parties for that matter. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting time ahead, but I thought it'd be worth noting that sort of part of what's just been announced, because it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I guess we'll wait and see how that affects, and I guess we'll jump on a podcast and see if there has actually been any effects.
That's a good idea. I'm sure we'll be doing an episode based around that very, very soon. Now back onto regeneration. So I think firstly let's highlight some of the areas that have sort of large regeneration plans and schemes that are going on. So obviously we're dealing with a number. I think one I can start with is Birmingham. So Birmingham, you've got Digbeth. It's got a big regeneration plan going on there at the moment, which we've had some dealings with our clients and investors sort of buying there, because they're getting in very early at that stage. You've got the Smithfield regeneration going on there.
Huge.
Just the
it's
general
right in the city centre, isn't it? That by the Bull Ring.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've got the HS2 part of regeneration plans still happening there. HS2 station. So Birmingham is a city which has a lot, and there's areas of Birmingham now which are having the regeneration taking place, which is exciting. Another city that you might want to talk about in terms of regeneration?
Yeah, I know. I think we've spoken about it many a times, but Manchester, obviously, I know we're very familiar with it. We've been there countless of times, and it's a city that we're very fond of as individuals as well as a company as well. I think there's multiple regenerations going on, which I'm sure we'll probably dive into a little bit more in the episode. But some of the areas that we generally have investment opportunities as well, being near £1 billion of regeneration. Obviously, in the northwest, obviously the Peel LNP Group are very well known for kind of delivering Media City up there, and are now doing a little bit more expansion, which I guess we'll dive into as I mentioned in a minute ago. Any other locations on your phone?
Liverpool's one we speak about a lot.
Definitely.
The Liverpool Waters regeneration, got Knowledge Quarter, obviously
the Wirral as well. The
Wirral, $1 billion regeneration going on there, the other side of the River Mersey.
It's a total of £7.5 billion now being spent in Liverpool.
It's crazy. Included in that is obviously the new Everton football stadium on the waters. So
have you seen that lately?
Yeah, it looks unreal.
I've on Twitter, they're actually very good. They do regular updates.
Wow.
And honestly, it looks amazing, because of course the good thing about that is not the fact that it's just going to be hosting football games. It's going to be a little bit more like a Tottenham Hotspur stadium, where they're holding kind of NFL games, they're holding concerts, sporting events, maybe boxing. We might see some more in Everton.
Good point.
So as I said, that's going to be a massive I guess, pull for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Even if we're looking at the short-term let route, that could be a great way. I know they've had the likes of the Eurovision Song Contest there, which would have done massive.
That was massive for the short let market.
A lot of money to a lot of investors who had the short-term let. So, yeah, exciting.
No, you're right there. Just luckily Everton stayed up.
I wanted them. I'm not a Liverpool or Everton fan as such. I do love the area in Liverpool. I do like Everton as a football club, and I'm glad they managed to stay up. I do think having that brand new amazing stadium on the waterfront and being in the Championship definitely is a bit of a downer.
Yeah, we just got promoted.
New stadium,
we've just been demoted. Sorry, and we got a brand new stadium. Yay! God,
they got Sean Dyche, haven't they? So they were never going down.
Yeah, fair play, absolute soldier. But yeah, so. Regeneration, we just mentioned like Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, but if we obviously give some context to, because again, a lot of people they hear you say regeneration, and because a lot of these places are in the midst of the regeneration, it's hard to see the full long-term benefits. So what I like to do when speaking to investors is give them sort of great examples, and I think one of the best examples we can give them is the likes of London. Now, look, obviously London's the capital of the country, and it's always been sort of a hotspot just in general. But the regeneration that's gone on over London over the years has been incredible. And there's areas of London, and this is what I always say to people when we mention sort of areas in maybe Manchester, Liverpool and Birmingham, they're like, oh, why would I buy there? And you're like, well, it's the same for London. Like there's areas in London which you wouldn't have bought years ago. But now
it's just trying to visualize it, isn't it? So I know that's something that we talk a lot to with investors. It's trying to look past the short-term look of what's currently there. But yeah, you're right, Toby. I think London is I mean, look, it's been transformed over the years, and I mean it's amazing there now, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I mean, just some examples. You got Canary Wharf, so that's not only a business hub, it's also now
I'd say it's the business capital of the UK.
It's massive,
it's huge,
and it's
headquarters.
It's where our offices are in London, so we're sort of there obviously a lot. And not only that, in terms of business hub, but it's now also a home of residential, high spec, high end apartments, and living for the occupants, whether that's renting or homeowner occupiers. So that's an area that's been transformed in the regeneration, and look what that's done to that area in terms of not only business but the properties there. You've got Battersea, so obviously Battersea Power Station, that's been going on for years. Big, obviously, regeneration of the power station itself.
I heard in there some of the studios were going for just under £1 million.
It's crazy. And
studios.
You think years ago, like you would never look to that when it all first started. You would have laughed at anyone telling you those prices. But because the money's been spent there, because of what it's attracting to that area, and you can just see what it does for the area specifically there, which also helps the property market.
Some of the people that would have bought off plan in there and how well they would have done. Over that time frame of buying in an area that's, I mean, look, it's also got an element of massive history to it as well, which is for some people massively attractive as well. And I know we've had some properties as well that have had that historical background and been transformed, and they've been amazing. They've got the industrial kind of old look to it. And, I mean, some of the investors love it, and especially for residential, they like having that nice kind of feel to it for sure.
Another one you can mention in London is Shoreditch. So Shoreditch is an area that's gone from like industrial sort of type area to now it's trendy,
very trendy.
You've got tech and creative businesses there now.
It's seen as a bit of like a nice place to go for the nightlife, and there's amazing pubs and bars and
lovely
restaurants.
bars. Like you got as you mentioned, restaurants, pubs. So it's that trendy factor. It's Shoreditch, and again, years ago, if you said Shoreditch was going to be trendy and a sort of a to-do place to go to, everyone had said no chance. Sure. And there's lots of areas where that's. I mean, Camden's another one. Hackney. Again, I remember years ago, like people wouldn't even blink and have any consideration to invest in property in Hackney.
Now the likes of Brixton and Peckham as well. Some other areas.
They're now gone down that route of sort of being trendy, fashionable. They've got like all these chic bars and restaurants.
People want to live there. So the demand in the areas for the roof, maybe a little bit cheaper as well than central London.
Exactly.
So they've got that element
it's that commuter location where they're close enough to the city centre. They've got the access link. So that's an example historically, and you can also use. So obviously, London's a great historical example to show how and what regeneration does for a location. But you can also look at Manchester, so
Massive.
Media City, the city centre itself. You've got, I mean, the Manchester Waters has been great, but I would say Media City is one we always talk about, what it's done. The business, again, we're not talking about just from a property point of view, but from a business point of view. Look at the massive names. They've now Kellogg's, BBC, ITV, all there at Media City. The city centre itself, the regeneration that's gone in there. As you said,
similar to kind of the Canary Wharf side, that can now be seen as the business kind of capital of the North, essentially, with Media City. And I know as well a lot of people who love living in that kind of environment, similar to Canary Wharf. You've got apartments that people are living in, they're high end. The exact same in Media City, and what that's done for that postcode and that, I mean, I guess the outskirts of Manchester, similar to what you said, very industrial, maybe not always seen as one of the nicest places, and people might have thought years ago, I definitely wouldn't be investing there. But if you would have bought there 4 to 5 years ago, you'd be absolutely laughing now.
Exactly. Another sort of newer example, modern example of regeneration and what it does for locations. Now, what does regeneration actually do for the location itself? So, I mean, one of the things, firstly, it massively improves the infrastructure. So when these locations are being regenerated, whether that's by sort of the local government or whether that's by like a developer doing master schemes that are sort of contributing to the area and regeneration plans there, it makes it more accessible and livable for people. So they're going to be putting in, whether that's train stops, tram stops, better roads to access these places. So they're going to make it more accessible for people to get in and around that location, and obviously livable, because you want to be able to access in and out, but also in there as well, be able to maneuver around.
That's what people want nowadays, isn't it? It's convenience, having things on your doorstep. That's how I guess modern society has changed in the way of people want things with the click of the finger, being able to get deliveries to their house. They want that accessibility. So as you said, Toby, having the infrastructure in place.
Look at the Elizabeth line.
Yeah.
Elizabeth line is a prime example in London, sort of the connection, what that's done since it was announced, and now it's obviously built and finished and operational. That's been incredible, like commuters in and around London to the airport, like to Heathrow and stuff.
Have you been on it?
Yeah, really good. What an upgrade it is. And I mean, going back to property, this is a property podcast. The stations where the Elizabeth line is located, the property prices,
it's a massive selling point, isn't it?
Has done amazing. They've jumped up, and that is that, and rental prices as well. Because again, we just spoke about infrastructure. It's then joining up all these locations so people can get around. They don't have to be direct city centre. They can be a little bit further out and join up.
Yeah, perfect for commuter, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
great. What people look for. They look for, as you said, the convenience of where things are at. And a lot of the time people will be like, well, I want to rent where there's a station or some sort of transport to get into, because not everyone has cars. So they've got the accessibility. And we've seen that once again in Manchester with the Media City. Maybe if they're working direct Manchester city centre, it's 4 or 5 minutes on the tram up there. They use obviously the overground more so than the underground in London, but the same thing, adding stops, and that's massively helped.
Well, then another benefit of regeneration to the local area is the economy itself, like massively benefits. So you think it will stimulate the economy because it's going to attract businesses to the area. That's going to create job opportunities. It's going to boost the local employment. So that's effectively driving money into the area. So that money's then being spent in the area, whether that's a local business or a big corporate coming in. I mean, local businesses can really sort of thrive on the regeneration schemes going on there, because it's attracting more people in, giving them more of a window sort of and platform. So that is really good. But yeah, the economies, you will always notice, they tend to really take a jump up and a boost from regeneration with the businesses and the opportunities that it brings to the area.
If you give an example of what you mentioned, Toby, the BBC, ITV, think of all the people that would have maybe been living in London that have now moved up to the north, or in
the job opportunities for people in Manchester.
So you've got the mix of the two there, which massively is going to help.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think all in all, it's exactly what you're looking for. And from, as I said, this is a property podcast, so if we go on the property stance, it's exactly what you want.
Well, also it can have a great social impact, because it can lead to a real improved sense of community. sort of bringing different communities together. Regeneration can really help with that. Again, the people already there and the people it brings in, and that can also create stability for the local area as well by doing so, which is really, really good and a positive product from regeneration in a local area. Again, you can use the London boroughs where you've seen that happen very well.
I'd say that as well in the likes of Manchester as well, with more culture and diversity coming in to the city, which is great. Once again, as you said, bringing in more people from different backgrounds and having that kind of, which we've seen over London over the past few years, that will definitely years and years now, where there's people from all over the world that are coming over to the UK. Now they're not just looking at the likes of London. They like the vibe of Manchester.
Birmingham's another one,
there's lots going on there. There's a good vibe to
Sheffield's another good one.
Loads of it, and it's the same with Liverpool as well. There's loads of cities now where it's not just London as a selling point. I think I saw somewhere that I think Manchester was one of the top three places to live in Europe, which I was shocked at. But as I said, if it's and to be honest, everyone that I know that lives up in the likes of Manchester and the north,
you say that we've got a lot of stick on TikTok lately from our Manchester posts.
But that's the locals.
People in Manchester like, what are you talking about? It's I'm like, they're like, it's horrible here. You're chatting rubbish, and I'm like, well, no, I've been to Manchester. It's really, really nice, and we've definitely got some stick for that.
It's like anywhere, isn't it? I'm guessing there's certain elements in certain areas.
No, I'm joking. But also another positive. It will help with the enhancing of environmental and sustainability, because you have to remember a lot of these new regeneration schemes, they'll be looking at being more green, sort of better for the environment. Going back to like the infrastructure they'll bring in, like it will make it more accessible in terms of people to get around using less emissions. So you think really in the cities now, they kind of they don't need cars, or they don't want cars because of the emissions and for the environment. So that's why they're putting in like obviously the cycle lanes, the trams,
I've seen ULEZ in London,
trains, everything like that. So, and look, that will have a benefit for the environment, of course. So the regeneration in those areas, one of the benefits is it really helps with the environment as well, because of the green sort of way that they'll be looking to do and they'll be looking to encourage, which is really, really good. So we spoke about the examples of regeneration, what regeneration does for the areas as a whole, but, how does it lead, which is obviously what's important to our listeners when we're talking about property investing, how does that lead to growth in their investment, capital growth or even rental growth to an extent as well, because that's obviously included. But look, all of the above helps lead to the property values going up. I think that really does build a case for it, because look, we've just mentioned there, it's improving the area, it's making the area more attractive, it's drawing people to the area, and that is what puts the prices up, mainly because the demand spikes up. There's more people flocking to the area. There aren't really enough homes for them. So that then puts the prices up. And obviously the same with rentals. You've got people coming in to rent there because they want to be in the area. All of the reasons we just listed is going to attract the people there, whether that's jobs, whether that's just wanting to sort of commute easier and live a little bit cheaper rather than be in the centre, whether that's just wanting to be in a more green environment or friendly environment, wherever that may be, sort of the regeneration attracting them there. That is what has the upward lift on prices.
Well, we've seen, I think some investors have before mentioned the fact of, I've bought a development here and there's one next door going up. That's going to mean the demand's going to be less. But if anything, as we've talked about before, it actually increases the values and brings the standard overall around that area to be higher.
And we're not talking just quick capital growth, we're talking long-term capital growth as well, because some of these regeneration schemes go on for like 20, 30 years, like a very long time. Even the ones going on for like 10 to 15 years. But the long-term capital growth is there because it attracts new investment into the area and it attracts new residents over that period and for the long term. So therefore, that is going to really increase your chances of long-term capital growth as well. We're not just saying you're going to get a quick boost when it's all happening. No, for the long term.
It's not your buy, refurbish, refinance.
No, it's nothing like that. And that goes down to the the rental price as well, because there is going to be enhanced rental demand there. That's going to put an uplift on rental prices. You're going to be attracting good sort of tenants to the area. So overall, like all of that is great for property investing, like everything we've
They're
spoken about.
all of the investment fundamentals you'd want to hear, wouldn't you, before you invest into a property?
Yeah.
If you're hearing the likes of because realistically everyone at the end of the day would like a bit of capital growth and obviously rental yields increasing over time.
Yeah.
So being able to have a mixture of both and finding areas like these.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to make your investment, as you said, it's not just the short term, it's thinking of the long game, which is something that we talk about all the time, isn't it? It's the medium to long term. It's not a quick, get quick kind of rich scheme as such.
Yeah.
It is something that, but to be fair, like we know of people that have bought in certain areas at certain time frames, and within a year they've made a significant amount, £30,000-40,000 by just buying in at the right place at the right time, whilst the kind of
look at
regeneration
Deansgate and Castlefield, for example, in Manchester.
Prime areas.
All the sort of regeneration has gone on and is still going on in those areas, and you can see what it's doing for like the prices in that area, both rental and property prices. Still holding some good weight behind them there. And you remember you got government backed initiatives sort of going into the regeneration. You've got big institutions, big companies, big developers also doing that. You've got your build to renters. So when we are looking at sort of real hot regeneration areas, we like a bit of a mix of that. We like sort of the government.
It's not normally just one, is it?
No, we want the government schemes. We want sort of the privately ones, like you got the build to rent, for example. Then you got your big sort of developers like Renicas, for example, that going in and doing master schemes in these regeneration zones. So there's a lot of things we look at, and they're sort of great indicators for where's going to do well because obviously there's regeneration that goes in a lot of areas, but it doesn't always have the same effect.
Oh no,
we're trying to maximize that as much as possible. So going on to that, what or where would you put, or where would you have your top 3 areas of regeneration at this moment in time?
I think if we stick with Manchester just to start with, I would say an area that is being regenerated via the Pilt LMP Group, who have already delivered Media City. They are building an extension which is called Pomona Island.
On the waters there.
So that's a £1 billion expansion plan being carried out, as mentioned, by the Pilt LMP Group, and that's going to be kind of leading on the River Irrell. So that's going to be leading from your Media City area back into the city via the river route. What that's going to be creating is similar to an extension of Media City as such. So bars, restaurants, a little bit of kind of, I guess, cultural benefit on that side, of a real mix of and diversity in that sense. Plus some businesses, we'd hope, some apartments and residential blocks, etc. So that's an area that, once again, we've already seen Pilt LMP Group and how successful they've been with Media City. With that expansion plan happening, I think it's massively exciting, and definitely should be an area that, if there are investment opportunities around there, could be worth looking into.
So is that your top 1, you're saying?
I would say it's up there.
2 more to go.
Oh, we're going into the top 3. Okay,
top 3.
That would be up there. I wouldn't say it's my number 1.
Okay.
You've then got, I think my number 1 is going to be in Liverpool. The £5.5 billion regeneration on the Liverpool waters. Once again, being carried out by the Pilt LMP Group. There's certain elements to it that I guess certain management is taking place of certain areas. So, for example, you've got Everton's new stadium down at one end. You have got the ferry terminal at the other end, which is near actually more so the city centre. That's already obviously the ferry terminal is already built, which is great. So it's already the start of things. We're starting to see already some developments with the likes of Ramal Capital, who have delivered some amazing kind of waterfront apartments that we're about to see very soon in the next coming years. And then obviously the rest of it is going to be obviously really kind of carried out shortly. Plus obviously Everton's new stadium, which is, I believe it's set to be completed by the back end of this year. So that for me is personally a favourite of mine. I think it's a fantastic what they're doing in Liverpool. It's an area that is quite historic to Liverpudlians as well. So they are very kind of, that hits home for them. So it's great to see that the money is being spent in an area which definitely deserves to be spent, and it's historical there. So yeah, that's personally my favourite one.
Okay.
And then if I was to go for 3, the third one, I think there's multiple. You know what? I probably would go back to Birmingham,
Okay.
I like the Smithfields regeneration. I generally think projects in and around that location are going to do significantly well by getting in at the early stages, similar to all of the regenerations, but that one I would say is definitely one of my favourites. It's near the Bull Ring. It's a very central area in Birmingham, so it's not like it's on the outskirts. And this is very, very central, and I think it's going to do absolute wonders. It's minutes, literally under 5-minute walk from the Birmingham city centre train station.
Yes. It's no time at all.
It's an unbelievable location. So personally, they're my top three if I was to do them in order. Liverpool number 1, Birmingham number 2, and Pomona Island is my number 3 personally.
Okay.
What about yourself?
Good question. I would probably be quite similar. I think in terms of top 3, first would probably be Liverpool Waters. I think that's great what's going on there for the area and what it's going to do. And again, it's not too far in advance.
I believe as well it's the biggest regeneration happening in Europe right now.
Yeah. And then torn in Manchester.
What are you torn between? Let's hear them both.
I still like all the stuff going on in Deansgate and Manchester Waters, though. I'm torn between the two. Do you know what? I'm going to go Deansgate just because if I was looking for a top premium asset and I had like the budget which I could stretch to it, I would be going in around there because there's still lots going on. You've still got about 10 years or so left going in.
So what's
around
happening there right now?
Well, so the reason I say that is because last time I went to visit Renecar, had a look around their schemes, what they're currently doing, and what they've just been finishing off. I can still see the plots of land they're buying up and where they're strategically sort of going to be developing. So
Renecar are just a normal developer, just for everyone listening, right?
They're a big sort of good big developer, and that area there, when you're there and in amongst it, it is incredible. And like I said, you can see the plots which have are secured, which they're going to be building on, so you can see the future. So if I'm going sort of high end and the product they deliver, and not just them but the developers in the area, they're all providing like a premium development, which is good for that area.
Well, we know how good they've been from the likes of even other developers in the area trying to follow suit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the standard and bringing that to Manchester, right?
Yeah, so that's why I would say that one.
Okay.
And then lastly, I would go Birmingham, but I wouldn't do Smithfields. Okay. I'm just a bit of a fan of Digbeth. I like the Digbeth. Yeah, I don't know what I think. I don't know what it is about it. I just get a good feel for the place. I mean, it's not as close as the Smithfield, but I just think it's got a lot going for it, and it's a good area. So yeah, I'm very, very sort of interested to see how that continues to play out. So there'd be my top 3. I was going to try and sneak in the Anfield Regeneration in Liverpool just because they're my football club, but I thought that'd be a bit biased if I did that.
Yeah, we'll miss that out.
Yeah, no, that is true. Now, in terms of predictions for the future of where we think Regeneration potentially may come, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think maybe the likes of, I wouldn't call them, I would actually call it, I know we kind of refer to them as secondary tier, either towns or city centres.
Yeah.
I think the likes of an area that I'm very fond of, that I know we've done quite a bit of research there, we've actually got a development there as well, is Halifax.
Halifax, yep.
Halifax is a location where you've got the Dean, is it Dean Clough?
Clough, yeah.
Dean Clough Regeneration, which is £200 million being spent, which is going to be amazing for a town like Halifax. It's going to bring thousands of jobs, restaurants, demand, and I think as a location, especially with the likes of being near to Leeds, Sheffield nearby, and Manchester even not far away.
Yeah.
I think that's a little gem where that is going to rocket prices in that location.
Yeah.
That's actually already in place as well. So that is something that I think is definitely one that we'll see also more, not just this one, but that's one to highlight. I think Sheffield is an area that I'm really confident on. Leeds as well. I know Leeds has always been quite steady and on the up and the rise, but I think in the city, I think maybe we'll start to see some areas that maybe are underdeveloped start to get the attention it probably deserves.
Yeah.
So maybe more kind of the Yorkshire and Humber areas and maybe even the North East, because I feel as though the affordability levels there are still very much so. They're not stretched at all. So I feel as though you've got a lot more room for growth. I know we're very, very positive all the time about the Northwest, but those are two areas that I would personally think that that's the direction that would really take off next.
Yeah, in terms of my prediction, I mean, you've done well for saying sort of locations. I'm probably going to be looking at more sort of where I think there's going to be more regeneration being focused. And I do think like you'll start to see just outside of these major cities, either cities close by, linking sort of, which can be linked up. You'll start to see good regeneration plans going on there, or outer skirt areas of cities, because I think where the cities have sort of grown and being developed, I think you'll start to see that sort of filter out. So an example I'd probably give is like Preston, for example.
Yeah, great.
There's great regeneration going on there, and I think cities like that, you'll start to see more sort of regeneration going on, because like we've seen from these case studies of the likes of Preston, you've mentioned Halifax, we're starting to see that businesses aren't too picky in terms of, I have to be there. It's more like, well, what can that do for me? So now these cities and even some sort of large towns are probably going to go, well, actually, if we can secure some sort of funding for regeneration in the area, or attract sort of regeneration, then that's going to help bring that to the area.
Massively.
And I do think that'll be sort of the next phases of that potentially. But at the moment, I think those major cities are still going to, they're going to be,
as you said, the ripple effect is massively going to help. Definitely.
Yeah. No, good. Well, look, that's regeneration.
Yep.
I hope we could probably talk quite a lot about that, but I hope that just gives a good understanding, because like I said, we do talk to our clients a lot about this, but it's really hard to go in depth and sometimes break it down as much as that. So this is a good one.
Not everyone's got a good 30 minutes to hear us waffle on about it.
Exactly, because we do waffle. So that is a very good
at least
point.
This way adds a bit of value and they can listen to it in their own time.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's been insightful, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.